Hi, my name is Tom, but I go by Panmixia on the internet. I went out of my way to play Ace Combat 6. Way out of my way. Maybe this is a hot take, or maybe it's ice cold, but the game itself is kind of a tragedy. Being Xbox exclusive, it's the worst selling main entry in the series, and it's often overlooked as it was the follow-up to the end of the so-called Holy Trilogy Zero. I'm quite confident in saying that AC6 is the black sheep of the major Ace Combat titles. So why have I gone out of my way to play this game? Well, for one thing, it's a major title in the series that I haven't played. For another thing, it's the hardest game to actually play, and I took that personally. Before I talk about the game itself, it's time for a rant about games preservation. Emulation is essential for game preservation. Eventually, hardware becomes too difficult to find or wears out entirely, and so many video games of this era are console exclusive. Plus, in Ace Combat's case, the licensing for all the aircraft eventually expires, forcing the games and its DLC to no longer be sold. For example, Ace Combat Assault Horizon was on Steam for a while, but the licenses expired and now it cannot be purchased. Thus, emulation. Or in some cases like Assault Horizon, piracy, but that's another topic. Most consoles have had their emulation figured out by now, with a few exceptions. The majority of Ace Combat has been on PlayStation consoles, and those emulators, DuckStation and PCSX2 are popular choices, are pretty easy to use. Even the PSP games are easy to set up, which I may or may not have done already. Nintendo emulation aside, that's yet another topic that would take too long to get into. This leaves us with the emulation of Xbox consoles, where AC6 lives. The program I attempted to use was Xenia, the popular choice for Xbox 360, and it was pretty bad. Xenia is well known for its instability, and AC6 is one of the better running games apparently. Cutscenes were completely muted, and music during gameplay would cut out after 30 seconds, which is completely unacceptable for my standards. I think audio is pretty damn important, so there goes the easy option. My next option was to dig out my old 360 from my closet at my parents' house. It wasn't in bad shape really, and copies of AC6 aren't expensive on the used market, straightforward enough, right? Except the game would crash after one mission. This kept up until I got this error screen. I looked up a lot of guides on how to take apart a 360, so I did, and I thought maybe cleaning the laser lens would help. My console wasn't particularly dirty or damaged, so maybe that was all I needed. Nope! Fuck yeah. You too, bastard. Yeah, that's right. Turns out the disk drive was just busted. Typical 360, giving me Halo 3 warranty flashbacks. God, fuck 2007, I went through like 4 fucking Xboxes. So, that left me with the nuclear option, buy an Xbox One. Which is ironic because a long time ago, I had an Xbone. Sorry, that's what I'm gonna call it. It's right there. I sold it because Halo 5 sucked and there wasn't much else to play. Anyway, that sent me back some money I'll never get back from this video. Hey, by the way, subscribe! Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. So, finally, I get to play Ace Combat 6, and it took me like 3 weeks to even get this fucker up and running. Games preservation is important, kids. Now on to the review. The first thing you'll notice is that AC6 suffers from mid-2000s gritty art direction syndrome and looks ugly as sin. Like some kind of color vampire sucked the world dry and then smeared Vaseline all over the place. I don't miss this era. Anyway, AC6, by Ace Combat standards, is pretty weird. By the time this game came around, most of the conventional Ace Combat tropes had already been established. Tunnel runs, ground attack baits, megalith, you know. What does AC6 do? It decided to have large maps with multiple objectives called operations, which basically boils down to hitting priority targets fast enough. Also, the most useful wingmen you will ever see are in this game. This is an oversimplification, but these are the largest deviations from the Ace Combat norm. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you're already familiar with Ace Combat. If you somehow aren't, go watch my Ace Combat 7 review and then come back. Please, I need the watch time. But I'm going to rush through the basic stuff that remains the same through the series. Jets control just like they always have. You're allowed one special weapon in addition to the regular missiles. You earn credits after missions, with which you buy new planes, of which the selection feels pretty small. Your objective is to find the big red targets on your HUD and blow them up. You know how this game plays. A quick note on difficulty options and special unlocks. Beat the game on hard and you unlock the CFA 44 Nosferatu, which trivializes most missions. However, I think it's intended to be played on Ace difficulty since you can pretty reliably get one shot at that difficulty.
Missile evaded. Call in air support. We can't hold out much longer.
Is this a good way to implement difficulty? No, not at all. I kind of hate it actually. Only bother with Ace difficulty if you really, really want to. Also, there is an even higher difficulty called Ace of Aces, but unless you're emulating or previously downloaded the content for that, it is lost to time.
Thanks, always online downloadable content.
Now then, the things that AC6 shakes up. Wingmen and mission structure. Let's start with Wingmen.
Talisman, which plane should I pick? How about my weapon? Are we ready to fly with these planes?
Garuda team, time to take off.
Your Wingmen actually do things. It's crazy. Garuda 2 Shamrock is the only wingman you have at all times. There are two commands you can give: cover, which makes Shamrock target whoever is targeting you, and attack, which makes Shamrock target whatever you're targeting. He will actually shoot things down. Friendly kills are actually tallied at the results screen alongside your own stats. You can use this to great effect, especially considering you don't have flares at all. Learn to take missiles in a non-critical area, I guess. This mechanic evolves further when you complete operations. You've got a little gauge by your radar that fills up as you complete operations, and other squadrons are freed up to help you. This is where allied commands come in. This works the same as it does for Shamrock, but now it's all of these squadrons covering or attacking for you. This shit is wild, man. You can just command your wingmen to attack everything that's in front of you, and you can fuck off and do something else. And they'll actually be effective. I wish they had kept this mechanic in some form for AC7, because you know what problem this solves? Everyone complaining that Ace Combat wingmen are useless. Imagine a world in which you have all of these other characters in your squadron, you're always seeing them on screen, you hear their chatter for the whole mission, and they actually do their jobs instead of just flying around. I get that saving all the action for the player is the intention here, and Ace Combat is all about being Jet Fighter Jesus, but this actually goes a long way towards giving a shit about other characters and feeling immersed in the action. Now, whether those characters in action are good is a totally different matter. Regardless, I like to see this mechanic come back. And now, mission structure. Like I mentioned earlier, missions are broken up into multiple operations, some of which must be completed for the mission to progress. Most of the time you're just attacking priority targets, but often you do have to go about hitting these targets in a particular way. Your AWACS needs cover, for example, so you go up to Angels 30 and shoot down enough enemies until Snake Pit says you're done. There's some flexibility here. There are boss fights, multiple tunnel runs in various forms. Another mission is a stealth canyon run. One mission is an air patrol turned into ICBM interception. Ultimately though, operations are just a way to make you choose which enemies to destroy first. Part of the operations design is also having much larger maps with more enemies in general. Whilst playing, I was making a lot of comparisons to Project Wingman's missions, if that gives you an idea of how big these maps are. Also, I want to highlight the Agaion mission. This whole thing is just one big boss fight, and it's fucking awesome. Agaion kicks the shit out of the Arsenal bird. This thing is nuts to fight. To make another Project Wingman comparison, the Agaion is like the airships, but on steroids. Of course, the comparison here is a little chronologically backwards, but hey, I now realize that PW picked up on some of AC6's good ideas. multiple airships with an enemy ace squadron, multiple target points on each ship, and you have to get in behind them so you can shoot out their engines. It's insane, and easily the best mission in the whole game. Saying that feels kind of weird actually, because the actual end of the game is just another diet megalith. Oh well, that ain't the worst thing about this game. Look, man, I've said it before that nobody's playing Ace Combat for the story. If you get a good story, then that's a great bonus. And congratulations on playing Ace Combat 3 and or 5. Sadly, 6's story is never going to be looked at fondly. The story bits that happen during missions are parallel to the story and the cutscenes between them. They don't come together until the very last mission, and even then it's... bleh. The cutscenes are mostly narrated by Melissa, a lady whose husband is an American Air Force pilot that we never meet because he dies off-screen. Her daughter Matilda is on a field trip when Grace Maria is invaded. The rest of the story is told through Melissa and Matilda's POV as they separately struggle to survive the invasion. We also see one of the enemy aces of Strigan Squadron, Wojciech, as he's grounded due to an injury and is assigned to interrogate POWs. Additionally, we even get an Estovakian civilian POV in Ludmilla as she travels with Melissa through war zones trying to find her aviator fiancé, another pilot of Strigan Squadron. Okay, so we've got war refugees, displaced children forced to survive on their own, both military and civilian enemy points of view, separated families. This should make for a pretty decent story, right? Nah. Performances are flat, not much actual struggle is depicted, the viewer is never forced to contend with a moral dilemma, and the worst thing that happens is seeing some American partisans get PG-13'd. There's so much here that should actually make for a gripping war story, but it just lacks substance. All of these characters are boring, and that's the worst sin that a narrative can commit. Oh, by the way, there's a subplot with a tank crew that wants to find some old tunnel that leads into a bank vault in Grace Maria, I think, and that vault is actually a dusty room under the castle in which Matilda, other war orphans, and Wojciech are trapped, and you know, that whole thing could have been cut out. Nothing of value would be lost. Why is it even there? On the other end, there's the story that we actually experienced during the missions. This is honestly not much better because it's the usual radio chatter you see in every Ace Combat. That is, banter between pilots, Estovakians being confused at how they're getting blown up, civvy radio commentary, you know, Ace Combat stuff. However, by virtue of just seeing and hearing these characters more often, I ended up caring a lot more about them by the end of the game. I spent so much time saving Warlock Battalion's asses, rescuing the Steel Gunners and Dragon Busters, bailing out Snake Pit, telling Sky Kid, Windhover, and Avalanche to kill the shit out of these SAM sites already. You get the idea. Oh, and hey, shout out to Battlecruiser Marigold and her fleet. They're actually able to hold their own for a while, unlike these Tank Battalion bozos. And shout out to Garuda 2 Shamrock for being the most capable wingman in the franchise. He's kind of annoying though. I can feel my body trying to die after talking about this game's story so much, but there's just one more thing I gotta mention. Go dance with the angels?
Go dance with the angels.
Dance with an angel, Mom.
Dance with the angels.
Go dance with the angels, mister.
Best get out of here. Have a nice dance with the angels now.
But it's time for me to dance with the angels.
Seriously? Like, I get trying to make a metaphor out of fighters or trying to romanticize flying, but this line is so goddamn corny and it's overused. It's a meme, and it's peak cringe. I hope Project Aces never does anything like this ever again. I don't think I'd survive it. Bruh, I'm in the late stages of writing this video, and I just thought about saying anything about the music, which should tell you something. Look, I'm not gonna say that the soundtrack is bad. It isn't. But it is forgettable. All I can reliably remember is Liberation of Grace Maria, and maybe the first bit of Invasion of Grace Maria since it's so similar, but that's it. I'm drawing a blank on the rest of the soundtrack. To compare, at least from my point of view, I can think of multiple tracks from the other Ace Combats. 7 is incredible and honestly the bar of quality for the series. 2 is a ton of fun. 3 is super unique. 4 has bangers much in the way that 2 did. 5 has a whole Razgrees Latin choir thing. And 0 is licking flamenco all over the place. What does 6 have? Liberation? Yeah, it's a great track, but what else? Which is kind of disappointing because it's in a series filled with great music and it just doesn't stand out. Okay, I feel like I've been pretty hard on AC6. It's got a lot of issues, and it's the most inaccessible mainline game in the series, at least if you care about having a decent experience. And I mean inaccessible literally. Overall, I had a lot of fun with the game. It's got some great ideas that we just don't see implemented in other entries, and it's still Ace Combat. If you're able to easily play it, either you don't mind a jank experience through emulation, or you have an Xbone or 360 laying around, sure, give it a go. A lot of people really love 6 for totally valid reasons, but having now played every numbered Ace Combat except for 1, I gotta say it's the weakest out of the lot. Which kinda sucks to say because it's not like 6 is a bad Ace Combat. Well, that's the review. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please subscribe. I'm so close to 500 subs, and that would make my day if we could reach that. Of course, I also have to ask for likes and comments because, surprise, engagement is a thing and YouTube's eldritch algorithm loves it. You guys watching, let me know what you think about AC6, or what you want to see next, or just say hi so I know you exist. Like my fucking stupid cat who insists on climbing all over me. Can you... I don't know if the mic is picking her up. Can you hear that? Well, if that's audible through the mic, I'll leave that in for you. Her name is Pico, and she's a stupid dumbass cat. Swear to God, stop climbing all over me. See you later, nerds.